All right, today I want to talk to you guys about the fact that you are not charging enough for your inflatables. Okay, I kind of dug into this myself, and listen, I am the world's worst at this because I've been doing it for so long that sometimes when you get into something and you do it for a while, that one of the biggest problems that you have is that you do not scale your prices with your longevity. So if you've been in this business for a long time, sometimes it's easy for you to kind of lean on the prices of years gone by, and you don't raise your prices as quickly as you should. And what happens is you leave a ton of money on the table. People are worse than me at doing that, but I've got some adjusting to do as well to try to kind of fix. Now that being said, I think that this all kind of keeps the industry honest, and it keeps prices, in a medium range. Because if you get too crazy, then somebody who has a lower price is going to beat you up and take most of the business. But on the other hand, like I said, I don't want to leave anything on the table, and you should not either. So I devised a worksheet to kind of go through, and I'm going to provide this for you guys. And this stems a lot from yesterday's video where we were talking about, you know, uh, how to price your units and the whole nine yards. So I dove straight into it, and I got down into the meat of it, and I broke down every single little thing that was a cost. And then there was still some more stuff that needed to go into there. This is the bare minimum, without any marketing, without any modification, and these are mediocre prices on all the stuff. And what I did was I took what it would cost you to do everything. So if you were going to buy a unit, let's just say that you're going to buy a bounce house and it's $2,000. And these numbers are going to be rounded. I understand that you can find things cheaper, and I understand that sometimes things are more expensive. But what I want you to do is, and you got to get into this habit, is you've got to figure out a way to come to a happy medium in all of this. If you can find a bounce house for $1,200, that is not the market value of a bounce house. That is a good deal. The market value of a bounce house is what it would cost you to replace it right now, with no sale, with no preemptive, no nothing. You pick up the phone, you say, I got to have a bounce house tomorrow. What would it cost to get it? And that's what it would cost. And there's a lot of other things that are involved in that as well. The shipping cost. So if a bounce house costs you $1,200, and then they can charge you, $200 for shipping or $300 for shipping, you're at $15 now. If you got to throw in a blower, and that's another $180, $200, you understand where it's going. So when you're talking about the price, I want you to talk about the total price, and I want you to talk about the value, the market value on the price, not some kind of sale price or something like that. So $2,000 for a bounce house, and again, it's a round number. That's the only reason I'm using it. And let's say that you're going to get 200 rentals out of that. Now, if you do 20 rentals per year, that's 5 years worth of renting out of that bounce house. I think that is a nice square number and a round area to be in. It's a safe area to be in. It is not, on the high end. It is not on the low end. 20 rentals for 5 years is, a good place to be. It's and I get it. Some people I've had videos in the past where people jump all over me and say, "You're crazy. We do 40 rentals a year." I get it. I understand. You guys are awesome. But what I'm talking about again is an average. If you're doing 20 rentals on a unit, that unit is good. It's sustaining itself. It's making the money that it should. It belongs in your inventory. If you're doing less than that, you need to start looking at maybe replacing it, get rid of it, and getting something in there that does a little better. If it does more than that, if you're doing 40 rentals on a bounce house or something like that, you probably need to buy another one. You need two, because you're not covering all your bases with your inventory. So 20 rentals times 5 years, 100 rentals, 2,000 divided by 100 is $20. $20 is what you have to get to pay for your unit every time you rent it. Okay? That's just to cover the cost of the unit itself. Not making any profit, not gas, none of that other stuff. Okay, so we're going to take that $20 and we're going to add the other cost to it. And again, that also includes the accessories. So we're talking about stakes, and we're talking about, blowers, and we're talking about tarps, and we're talking about hoses, and we're talking about all these things. And not only did they have to be included, they have to be replaced as well if they break or tear. If your stakes, are not lasting 5 years, or your tarps are not lasting 5 years, you need to figure out what the cost is to make it last 5 years, so it goes as a package with that. Same thing with blowers, cords, the whole 9 yards. So that's where we're trying to get. And that 2,000 is starting to look a lot lower on a bounce house when you start talking about all those numbers. And I get it, but we're going safe. We're going safe with this video because I don't want to scare anybody. And it gets pretty scary towards the end. The next part that I kind of added in was cleaning, and because it's an ongoing situation, I added that in next. Cleaning would include the labor that it costs and plus the supplies, and I just said a flat $20 across the board. Now I get it. It may be more, it may be less, whatever. But what I was thinking is that if you've paid somebody 30, 45 minutes worth of labor, and then you had some cleaning supplies that $5 worth of cleaning supplies that went into whatever you had to do, and that's what it would cost. Again, that number can go up if you have to keep buying vacuum cleaners, or you have to whatever makes that cost go up. It could go up, but again, nice round number, $20. So every time you rent it, it's costing you $20 to get it cleaned. So now you're at 40. Then we talk about the labor, and I did the cleaning first because the weird part is that cleaning is a constant. Labor is something that is usually bolted together. So anyway, labor includes whatever it takes to get somebody to do this. Now, if you're doing this solo, labor is where your profit is beginning. If you're hiring someone, this is where you need to kind of watch where your numbers are, because that person is getting paid. If they're getting paid by the hour, they're getting paid for delivery time, from the time they show up at the shop to load stuff, to do all that stuff, to drive to the location, to drop it, to come back, to pick it up, and then on top of that, we've already talked about the cleaning. So labor is a big expense, and it's something that you really get into a situation where if you don't have the right amount of people working for you, you're going to suffer. If you try to cut corners on your labor, what you're going to do is you're going to get caught in a bind where you need help and you can't find help because you don't pay, and that kind of thing. So labor is one of those things that's a constant, and it's also a big chunk of the money that's going into this. Labor for a delivery on one of these things, as I figured, was going to be probably around $60. And that's, again, delivery, pickup, there and back. Again, some folks have some stuff that's 15 minutes down the road, and their labor can knock out a bounce in 10 minutes, and it's a 30-minute job to deliver and a 30-minute job to pick it up, so it's just an hour. But we're talking averages, people, averages. So $60 for your labor. Then we get into the fixed cost. Sorry. We have vehicle expenses. Now, what I did with the vehicle is if you're talking about you have to have a truck. You have to have, a trailer, or, whatever you're transporting in. Those things require tires and oil changes and maintenance and gas and insurance and whatever payments that you're paying on the vehicle. And I included this because what I wanted to do is I wanted to break down. Far too often, we in this industry assume that we're in business, and we don't act like we're in business. What we do is we say, "Oh well, I'm using my truck, so it's not really a big deal." But that's not the way that it is, because if you're wearing out your truck, then the business needs to be paying for your truck, and it needs to pay to replace your truck, and it needs to keep you in business, and that's one of these business expenses. If you're doing this as a weekend warrior, as a part-timer, as a hustler, or something like that, and you're using your own truck, one of the benefits is your business helps you pay some of your truck payment or all your truck payment or whatever, and that's great. But inevitably, when we're talking about the expense, you got to have something to deliver it with, and insurance and truck and trailer and all that stuff is a necessity. So I included the price of the truck, the price of the insurance, the price of the maintenance, and the whole 9 yards, and I threw that in there on top of it. And the way that I did it is that I figured an X amount of rentals per year divided by the truck payment per year, and then all the other expenses and stuff was done on a monthly basis. So, and those are your fixed incomes. Would be your annual insurance premium for your bounce houses, and for your workers' comp, also for your vehicle insurance, any of that. All that all that's on a constant, so you know how much that's going to cost you each month. So what you're doing is you're averaging the number of rentals that you're doing per month, and you're dividing that into those particular costs. So we did all those, and we put them all together, and we came up with a total. And I want to run down this sheet with you, and I kind of already told you a little bit about it, but it kind of took me back a little bit. Simply because I know where I'm at, and I know where most of you guys are at, and I don't think that we think about these things too much. So anyway, the bounce house, $2,000 for the bounce house, 100 rentals, going to cost you $20 per rental. The unit cleaning is going to cost you another 20, so we're up to 40. The delivery and pickup labor, and that includes everything. This can definitely go up, so be careful with this, but I figured labor at $60, so we're at $100. Your vehicle cost, now this is the price of the vehicle and the price to maintain or the price to replace the vehicle, $50. The vehicle gas. Now, what I did on this was I figured a 15-mile delivery. So 15 miles there, 15 miles back, 15 miles there, 15 miles back. That is 60 miles for a delivery and a pickup. And I get it. Most of us don't do that. Most of us go deliver that, and then we deliver another one, we deliver another one, we deliver another, and then we deliver another one, and we come back. So you do a circuit, and it's not 15 miles between each one. But for the sake of argument, and for the sake that there are instances where you do go further, there are instances where you only go once, there are instances where all these things take effect. So I said 60 miles, and I figured the gas mileage, an average gas mileage for that, basically 4 gallons of gas at $3 a gallon, $12 is what it's going to cost you for gas. Again, you could be cheaper on that, but that's not your biggest expense, so it's not a big deal. Your vehicle maintenance is another $12, and I just figured out how much it would cost me. How many brake changes and oil changes and tires that I put on a vehicle, and just routine maintenance in a year, and I divided that by the number of months in the year, and that's what we came up with. So again, it can go up. especially if you have an older vehicle that has a lot of problems, or something's going on. Those kind of things happen. Your insurance is going to cost you $15 per rental, and that's your vehicle insurance. So, and that's kind of a wild thing too, because it's expensive, and a lot of times we don't realize. And again, folks, if you're using your personal car and you got your personal insurance and you're doing this kind of stuff, the thing that is going to happen is if you do have an accident and that they call you on it and say, hold on, you were operating as a commercial business but you didn't have commercial insurance on your vehicle, or like me, you go onto some property and I had a box truck that went over a septic tank that they didn't tell me was there. It went into the septic tank. I had to call my insurance company and pay for that, because we collapsed the lid onto the septic tank. Anyway, that's a commercial claim because it was a commercial vehicle doing a commercial thing. Now, I had commercial insurance, so it wasn't a big deal. But if you're doing that in your private vehicle, they may ask some questions. What are you doing in this person's backyard? Do you know these people or whatever? And that can become a problem. So anyway, you need commercial insurance for your vehicle if you're doing commercial work. And then insurance for the inflatables. And again, this can go way up, and but I put it at $25 per rental. And basically what I did was I took a yearly cost, an average yearly cost for somebody doing a certain amount of money, and averaged it at $5,000-$6,000 a year, so it's $25. You add all those together. Well, let me say this. Now, if you hire somebody, you've just covered your cost, and you are at $214 for a bounce house. It cost you $214. It cost you $214 to deliver a bounce house. You haven't made any profit. This is what it costs you to deliver a bounce house, $214. And again, my numbers are skewed. Yours may be different. They may be higher, they may be lower, but you're still going to be pretty close in the ballpark. $214 to deliver a bounce house. If you draw any profit, and I just said that, we're going to match the labor and draw that profit, so I added $60 to it. $274 for you to be profitable to deliver one bounce house. I have not included warehouse space. I have not included marketing costs. I have not included, any other outside things that may be popping in. So what you need to understand is that the price that you set for your units is very, very important, because it's easy to assume, you did 5, 6, 10, 15 rentals in a weekend, and you got this pile of cash sitting there, and you're thinking, whoa, I did awesome. I did several $1,000s or whatever. But then you start breaking down what the cost was to you, and you're not. This is helpful for you because what it does is it allows you to see where your money is going. And, well, let me back up. I looked the other day, and you know what it's costing me to convert on Google, on my AdWords for Google? It's like $9. So if you add another $9 to this, if I'm just doing marketing, another $9 on top of this, that's pretty bad. Now we're at, 283, and warehousing space. I know a lot of you guys are paying several $100 a month for warehousing space, or maybe even that into the thousands. You're adding several hundreds of dollars each week. So $30, $40, $50, $60 per rental. I don't know. I don't know what your cost there is. So you need to take that in mind. So now, I mean, let's just say you're adding $40. Let's go on the low end. Just say $40 per rental, and that covers your whatever warehouse space you have, plus whatever light bills you have there, plus whatever renter's insurance you have there, which is a big if. But just say you cover all that with $40 per rental per weekend. You've jumped way over $300, 320, 325 for a bounce house. You need to keep this stuff in mind because you need to understand that those kind of things need to be watched, and you need to kind of keep an eye on it. Now, other parts of that is that your labor can go way up. If you start adding, people, your labor doubles each time. So, two guys, if it takes two guys to pick it up, it's going to cost you twice as much. And if one of those isn't you, then you're paying two people, period. That's it. There's no way around it. So keep that in mind and understand that this can get way out of hand real quick. And while you're sitting there counting all the cash in your hands, you need to make a really, really conscious effort to understand that this money isn't yours. There's a whole list of folks that is taking your money. If this helps you, let me know. If I'm wrong, bring it. Tell me what I did wrong. Tell me how I could do different. Tell me what is something that I am overlooking. Because honestly, tell you the truth, and I get it. Like I said, you do several in a row, you cut a lot of costs because of labor time and vehicle time and things like that. But some of those costs don't ever go away. It doesn't matter how many rentals you do in a month. You're still paying X amount of dollars for your car insurance or your vehicle insurance or your bounce house insurance or whatever. So if you do one, it's the same as if you do 40 rentals. I'm just trying to break it down for the rentals to show you that you've got to do X amount of rentals. And we're talking about several hundred rentals each year. 400 rentals is what I think I put it at, which is it's not on the high end at all. It's not. If you have a 10-month season, you're talking about 40 rentals per month. 10 a weekend. There are companies out there that do far, far more than that. There are companies that do far, far less than that. But I tried to pick something that was doable and kind of in the middle of where the majority of us are and where we're seeing things. So let me know if you think any different. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me. Let's figure this formula out and let's do this. I'm going to include a copy of this breakdown in there so that you can kind of see it and go over it and tell me what you think. And come up with your own ideas, your own thoughts, and you let me know. And these are ideas that you can use to help save you money. And it's also, you can address this with customers who say that you're too expensive or whatever. I'm not saying that you open your books to them, but you need to explain to them that there's a lot of costs involved to doing this. This isn't just because we deal with children, just because we have things that are fun and games and things like that, doesn't mean that we're toys. People assume that because we deal with children that we're just a plaything, we're a toy, we're not a serious industry, and that is a problem. And it needs to be addressed when you start looking at the cost that you have involved and put into these kind of things. Keep that in mind. Let me know. We'll see you guys on the next one.